course, didn't bring out printout of it, but I can tell you that Tristan Tolino, Representative Tristan Tolino from House Appropriations. We, as you know, are trying to figure out the budget construct as a whole. And your initial letter and bill draft for 205 had the way it's constructed, it contemplated a base appropriation and then also a one-time appropriation. And we are not able to put money in base for that program in the first year. And there's a lot of different other programmatic pressures that are dealing with our base. And I don't know if for new members, if it would be helpful to explain how base works versus one time. I'm happy to do so if anyone wants me to do that, but I'll just tell you quickly what we did. There are two instances of amendment. The first just specifies that the work will be done by the staff who are staffing working lands. And that was a request that I had received to be specific. It doesn't change anything substantively. It doesn't direct them to follow the protocol. It's all your original criteria are in there. It's just, I don't know why but there was some interest and that's specified. So that's done. And then the second part is essentially treating this as a pilot, and we went from $250,000 to $350,000 in one-time dollars in our amendment to allow the agency to get started with this program and for grants to go out and for us for you to assess it next year and let us know this really worked extraordinarily well, it belongs in base or not. So that is the essence of what we've done. And the language, if you didn't get a copy of it, was drafted by Mike O'Grady. And so you did not. Okay. If you want to grab it, it's on our website from yesterday.
Thank you.
Yeah. And usually I think it's by name in our account, in our website. Would it be helpful for me to explain what base pressure is versus one time? Is that something that's useful, or you feel like?
Well, Laura is grabbing that and posting it to our page today so that we can look at it before we weigh in. If you can explain that, and then I know you said there was a base request and there was a one-time request, but just to refresh everyone's memory, that it was 250 and 250.
That's right.
With the two numbers in the bill.
Yeah. And so just at the highest level, we have the base is really our referencing of the kind of the steady year in, year out revenues and expenses that are more or less a predicted cost of government, if you will, and that has an associated revenues that sort of match it up to a certain point. And when we overshoot it, when our revenues overshoot our stable but slightly growing every year cost structure, that generates one-time dollars that are available to us. But what we try to look at is our ongoing revenue projections versus our ongoing expense structures. And we try to match base dollars to things that are to programmatic activities that are clearly ongoing. And so since the committee felt that this, because of both the pressure and also because of the fact that this was the first year, we were quite amenable to the idea that it might eventually become a base program that gets rolled into the base budget of the agency, but that would be better done in year two than it would be in year one. And so I don't know if that's clear enough, but if, the governor, typically you'll see this when we present our budget next week. You'll see the buckets of what we call the B numbers, which are, I think for Agency of Ag, it's B222, 324 in that range. There are each division, there's admin and ag development and water quality. Each of those divisions within the agency have a budget, and it just tracks basically the kind of core costs to that budget. And then one-time expenditures, whether they were ARPA related from the last few years, or whether they're general fund dollars that have been created because we didn't spend everything we thought we would, or we had more revenue coming in. Those appear in a different section, the B1100 section of the budget. And so you'll see any one-time costs that we're carrying on behalf of any of your areas of jurisdiction in that section.
So
What's
this
that?
brings to mind the purchasing incentive, which was not new, but it wasn't funded in the governor's proposal.
Yes.
And there was some suggestion maybe that was an oversight. But I'm wondering, is that in the base, or are you recommending it for the base?
So that falls, House Appropriations divides the budget into, as you know, into sort of different chunks that different members take. So where that technically lives is in the education area, and that is not mine. However, because it was in your letter and I'm trying to also be a liaison to your committee, I've been paying attention to it. And my understanding is that for 2 years it was funded with one-time dollars, and it was inadvertently left out. I think we're clear that it's going back in, and at 500,000. I don't know that it will be moved into base this year because of those base pressures that I was naming, but it is under consideration for being moved into base, pending our final analysis on how much capacity we have there.
Can we ask about other?
Ask away. You got me, and I'm avoiding a compact bill, so go ahead.
Well, we can drag this out as long as you want.
No. Yeah, anything.
Did other committee members have particular questions you wanted to ask about?
Approach, do their calculations also consider, what the money's going to? So I can see like a new program with grants is one thing, that if, say, the conservation districts are trying to hire people or have healthcare, right? You don't want to start that and then be like, you're done.
That is correct. We do consider that. Base is a special animal, and, there's a lot of, as I said, a lot of pressure for it. So for instance, for the conservation districts, I think that we've managed to land on a potential recommendation that is more money than last year, but I don't think very much of it is going to be in base. I understand exactly the point you're making. Like they're in this catch-22 of, I feel like they're the orphan of, and it's one of those things where if you're the sort of in the nexus of multiple areas of jurisdiction, but you don't sit firmly in any one of them, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. And I feel like certainly from my time being in this committee over the years and watching, it seems like they are often lost in the shuffle. And it's hard to not be lost in the shuffle when you don't have the staff capacity to sort of be more visible and stable. And so that catch-22 is persisting, but I do think we are closing in on a recommendation to put, I think, $1 million in funds into our House budget construct. Now that may change because we have not voted on what we're doing, but that would be combined base and one time, and I don't know where the line will fall within that. But actually, given where we started at the beginning of the week, frankly, I'm pretty surprised and happy that we got from that. I think it was $400,000 one-time dollars last year. And so I hope we can hold on to it today as the day unfolds.
We talked about it a little bit in the cafeteria, but because there might be a question about it today with the fairs, can you just remind me how, so there's the 110,000 flows through the agency.
Yep.
And then the grants program, that's through the capital funds. So and those are both things that come to you in a budget, like as an ask.
So the 110 is in the base budget of the agency, usually called out in the budget presentation. in part, that's a legacy of the former member of this committee, Dick Lawrence, who was, those who worked with him knew he was a passionate champion of this program and had worked really hard to get it to be stable and not be every once in a while thing. And so the secretary typically highlights the things that single line item expenditures that we typically like. So farm to school, working lands, fair stipends usually appear, and so the 110 is in the governor recommend, and I think we're heading down that path of saying yes to it. And we see the capital budget in House Appropriations because we technically have to give it our thumbs up, but the development of the capital budget is entirely within the House Institutions Committee jurisdiction. And so we haven't had our walkthrough, but I'm imagining that they are doing something similar to what they've done.
Other budget-related questions? Mike?
I guess just would be interested to hear where the other, handful of pieces that we asked for in our memo stand.
So at the moment, in our preliminary drafts, the money for Salvation Farms is in our one-time list. Close my eyes to look at my spreadsheet. The $400,000 for Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund for 3 distinct projects, I believe, it is in our construct at the moment. I have also recommended, and I think it will be it's possible it will get through, that Sustainable Jobs 100,000 is added to the base budget, given the prominence of the Farm to Plate strategic plan and shaping, I think, the vision and activities of the agency and state government. It seems appropriate given all that's been achieved in the last 11 years or 12 years in that arena. Working lands is, we are not doing at the moment. Again, we haven't approved it, but at the moment we're not adding as much as was requested for working lands or for the governor's Future of Ag Commission. It's likely going to be $5 million for the Future of Ag Commission, and we have the $1 million in base for working lands and $1 million in one-time dollars. So that I continue to personally advocate for those numbers to go up, but we're also facing surprising amounts of pressure from the one-time dollars that we do have, given some of the larger significant policy commitments that so far have been made around paid family leave, around child care. That's coming, but we are setting aside a substantial amount of money, as did the governor. The governor set aside $56 million for child care, and we're setting aside probably a little bit more than that. That's taking away a lot of our flexibility. I'm not sure if did I miss any of the conservation districts I've named already?
Opportunity Board.
Land Access Opportunity Board is in our draft construct is funded for the first year. And we will not be funding any of these boards and other kinds of things, multi-year funding, because we're going to commit to the year that's in front of us and spread our dollars around, but it is funded for the first year.
Okay, right.
In our, so far.
Just a clarification on, I heard somewhere in the walls that there was an amendment about universal school, rumored to be changed to universal school meals.
Not that I'm aware of from us, so I'm.
That may be coming from.
That may be coming from somewhere, but
Be coming from.
but not from. I don't think it's an appropriations member.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be a real twist.
May not be your number, but we have been talking a lot about conservation, land conservation, over the past few weeks. And we recommended that the Housing Conservation Board be fully funded out of the property transfer tax.
Yes.
I know that there was another committee that probably had actual that was their jurisdiction.
Yeah, I believe that our construct for the Housing Conservation Board is 50 million in one-time dollars, and is it 13? I'm looking, I was gonna look over to my left to see if Amy,
We're at 21.
21, we're at 21, plus 50. Yeah, so it's gonna be a significant amount because of one-time dollars, but it may not appear as there's been a major effort with this property transfer tax to try to get us to behave in with the construct that we created, and we've not withstood it for a long time. I don't think that's changing, but I think that there's substantial resources going to VHCB in our budget construct. Interestingly, I mean, just another piece of that is the Regional Planning Commission's municipal planning grants and the GIS systems, which are get a piece of that. And we've been notwithstanding that. Last year was the first time that we had a base increase to the RPCs in 23 years or something. I don't know, something insane. But so we not withstood for a decade or at least, and maybe 2 decades, the underlying construct. So we're going to, I think, probably do that again, but it may come with a little bit of an additional bump up this year. And they're clearly a crucial intersection of our conservation efforts and working with our local municipalities to achieve those goals.
Do you have your eye on the food bank and the other food security stuff coming out of Human Services?
So food bank, there is in our initial construct some additional one-time dollars for the food bank. Beyond that, for food security,
Meals on Wheels.
we are, I think, also looking at some additional one-time dollars for Meals on Wheels.
John?
So 9.2 million for organic dairy farms, and the governor's recommend for the 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Are those two pots coming out of Van Dyke?
So we're not carrying anything for the organic dairy program in our current budget. And that's because basically we were under the impression that having sent it over on BAA, it did not make it in the BAA, that the Senate would be taking the lead, in which case it will appear, if they do it, in their budget construct back to us, and then we'll consult negotiate at the end around it. So we're not directly conflating those two in our work because we're not carrying that cost at all.
Thank you for
Yeah.
all this insight.
I remember what it's like to not be in appropriations, and it can be like a very confusing thing. Like, what is going on there? How are they making decisions? What are all these numbers, the B what's? So happy to help demystify the process.
And you were on House Ag for how long?
3 years in total. I was on for my first term, and then I was moved to corrections and institutions for 1 year, moved back to support somebody else who needed to move out. And then I was in GovOps and Commerce, now appropriations. So I've been all over the place.
We haven't talked at all, and you, again, it's not your area, I don't think, but about the forestry pieces that were in our request. So having not heard anything, can we assume we're attacked?
Specifically which requests? Because they may
there were, I want to say three different one-time programs. I'm sorry, they're not at the tip of.
That's okay. Not jumping out for me. And yet.
So
Not working lands, no, it was.
So in Forest Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Forest Parks.
So I do know that there's, the additional positions and the reclassification of the foresters.
One time specific to
It was
projects.
like a digitization or a upgraded, yeah.
Well,
That's the
that too, yeah,
I think we're doing that.
okay. All right,
I need a little bit more than just a header, but
John?
Are there any sort of base programs that are being eradicated that sort of jump out in ag forestry land here?
not that I'm aware of. And honestly, it would be very hard for us to make the decision to close down something that was a policy creation. Like, we certainly, I think if we wanted to, we would be coming to you and saying, our perception is that this needs to end, and tell us we're wrong. So otherwise it's more about ensuring that the numbers that are being contemplated for the ongoing costs of government programs that we've put in motion are accurate and, fit into a larger view of how to fund state government.
Mike?
Serve learner is the only other thing.
That is in the Commerce Workforce Bill, and it looks promising for us to roll that into the budget. So it won't be a standalone bill, but I believe that we're going to be able to carry all the costs within that bill.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come anytime.
Tiffany this morning, like, what's happening with the ag budget?
And, you all should have gotten a note from your budget liaison on the committee individually. And obviously I am for the committee, but feel free to actually ask us, because we do want to be helping all members understand our decisions and not we joke about being in a black hole. We don't actually need to be in a black hole.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we have third reading this morning for universal school meal. And then later, should be later anyway, we'll have Henry presenting the miscellaneous farm bill. I think that's third reading on 126, our amendment, those of us who signed on to it, and Representative Rice's name was inadvertently left off of that list yesterday, but we're done with that. We'll see. I don't know how long it's going to be today, so Laura will stay in touch about reconvening, and I don't anticipate it will be a long day for us.
Betsy Ann on her thing says 5.5 hours.
Is she really?
Yeah, on every calendar invite, she puts the time chime.
Okay.
And
I don't think you guys realize how long my presentation is.
5 hours.